had some incredible speakers this morning, and we heard a lot of people speaking about how we really, really want to move the needle on huge energy projects. But let me put you into a secret around this here. Right now is the limitation to that really is going to happen. And I'm going to bring a process up that is very known in government. Remember, this session here is about AI for government. And I'll promise you one thing, after this 30 minutes, you will find that AI for government is the most coolest AI era you can work in. Because that is where we really can move the needles. So, if you want to set up an offshore windmill park or a hydrogen project, or you want to build a house, or you want to do anything anywhere in the world, you need a permit. And then you're wondering, what is the lady speaking about a permitting? How boring is that? But I can tell you, today, a permitting process, no matter where you are in the world, takes 6 to 8 years. So even though you sit with millions of dollars to start a big offshore, onshore energy project, as we heard about this morning, you are stuck in bureaucracy. So if you use AI for permitting, you can get that down 2 weeks, 2 months. And then we can talk about executing. The fact about government is the people that serve private sector, that serve the citizens. They're the ones that have huge strategy about infrastructure projects. They're the ones who come out with regulations. So we as citizens and private sector can do what is needed to do to build a better world. But if that is not working together, we are just sitting and waiting with good intention. So think about that for 2 seconds. So with me on this panel, and I've been so excited to meet Frederick, because I'm going to put you into one more secret. When the 17 Global Goals came out in 2015, it was a framework without a technology framework behind it. Agree on that? Yes. And how in the world are we going to build a new, better world starting in 2015 when we were pretty digitalized without knowing how to do it? We didn't know, and that's why we haven't seen the big breakthrough that we talked about this morning. But UN, since 2015, wanted to come out with something called the Digital Compact. Look it up if you haven't know what that is. That was approved by member state of UN at Climate Week in New York in September. And that is a solid technology framework with AI that Frederick is going to speak about. And I just want to tell you what Frederick represents from ITU, UN, AI for Good, is the, very important to hear this, is the only way for you to work with AI in a responsible way. You have the 70 Global Goal to do things right, you have the Digital Compact, and you have the AI for Good. So Frederick, please talk about AI for Good. I'm not sure, how many of you have heard about AI for Good? Okay, not enough, not enough. Give it away, Frederick.
Wow, thank you for such a spectacular introduction. Really much appreciated. Now, AI for Good was created in 2017. Now think about that for a minute. That's an eternity in AI years. And it was built on the premise that we now only have 5 years to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and AI holds great promise to advance many of those goals and targets. So anything from climate change to clean energy to affordable healthcare, education for all, spotting gender inequities, and looking at more physical manifestations of AI like autonomous driving, robotics, brain-computer interfaces. I think it's safe to say that the use cases are definitely there. But how do you know a high potential AI application works equally well on men or women, on children or the elderly, persons with different skin colors, persons with disabilities, or in low resource settings where things like electricity, 5G, Wi-Fi, access to data, things we take for granted, are real concerns. So these thoughts, it's not a natural reflex for the fast-moving tech and startup industry. I think the track record so far has been build it and we'll fix it later. But these are things that the AI for Good community thinks deeply about. So what is AI for Good? Well, simply put, it's to identify practical applications of AI that are trustworthy to advance the SDGs. And how do we do this? Well, first of all, we can't do this alone. So we have 47 UN sister agencies as partners of AI for Good, contributing to our standards, to our collaboration efforts, to capacity building around the world. And also, one of our catchphrases is that AI is too important to leave to the experts themselves. So great efforts have been made to bring us many voices to the table, from our 194 member states to our UN agencies, civil society, of course, the tech industry, academia, media, NGOs, young people, creatives, artists. They're all there for AI. And one thing I'd like to stress as well is that even though we're doing quite well with connectivity, 1/3 of the world is still unconnected. So that's 1/3 of the world that's not participating in the AI revolution. And for me, it's not a question of coverage for the sake of coverage. It's, how do you get people to participate? How can you use AI to create the incentives for people to move online, to access government services, to access content in their local language or dialect? A lot of times people are illiterate, they can't read, they're disabled. And I think AI could be used in a way to reduce the friction with speech to text, text to voice, all these different applications, and really move people online. Again, not for the sake of creativity, but to basically get that engine firing on all cylinders so they can participate in creative problem solving, finding solutions, shared culture, shared storytelling. And I think that's still a missing piece of the puzzle, is how do we get that 1/3 of the population to participate in the AI revolution? Thank you.
And now you're probably thinking, all good, right? Let me tell you what you're going to do now, what I did. So when I got to know about AI for Good, I worked with AI for governments. I went into one of their fascinating work groups. And I'm right now building, together with awesome people, use cases that we put on something called GovStack. Look it up. GovStack is a platform for member states to go in and see amazing processes, in this case within government service, public services, how to use it for AI. Why are we going to build things in silos? UN is holding this for all of us on the GovStack. Get into a work group, get you going on this and begin to build. And we're also inviting them to the big event happening in Geneva in July. AI for Good is over a couple of days. It's both, you can say, but I'm not in government. No, it's AI for good, AI for government, AI for private sector. So get involved, we need all your smart minds. With that, I would like to go to you, Dan. Dan recently was in the White House, Director for Clean Energy, and you are the person who knows about regulations, about how to work with government, how to work at the White House, how do we move the needle, how do we do things? So how do you look at AI in a government setting, also linked to the regulation side?
Yeah, thanks, Anne. And it's great to see everyone out there today. And it's true, last week I worked in the Biden White House. I was gently asked to leave. Not everyone understands, I think, that in the US, everyone in the White House, other than a few administrative staff, leave. So I'm an energy expert. My career has been in energy and mostly in electricity. And so my focus has been on meeting the power demands of AI. But I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm happy to talk with any of you about that and the executive orders that you're all fascinated by. But in the context of this panel, my career has been in and out of government. And so I know how government works and, importantly, how it doesn't work on the inside. And it is the stuff of legends. It is the butt of jokes. It is famous for the terror that it causes on the part of government employees and the citizens on the outside. And so I'm obviously talking about the aged platforms and systems that still exist within government that I think can be transcended or leapfrogged by the insertion of AI into it. The other thing, of course, and you're hearing this from the new president, is cost cutting. There's an entirely new unit. We can't really tell what exactly kind of unit it is being led by Elon Musk, but the whole thing is on efficiency, cost efficiency, reducing spending. And so in the past 2 days, I've learned a lot about AI and its ability to introduce efficiencies and reduce cost. And so that fits right into all of that. Finally, I will say, and Anne mentioned permitting. The other role of government, other than processing things within, is regulation. And regulation is a static thing. I mean, it's a regulation is issued, and then there might be a look back years down the road on whether that regulation did a good job or whatever. And this is just this morning I'm beginning to think about this, is whether or not there's an opportunity through AI for dynamic regulation. Not static regulation, but regulation that can take the kind of feedback that is not currently incorporated in the regulatory process and make that process much more efficient, leading to all sorts of cost efficiencies and other benefits. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Stan. And you from Israel, and could you fill us in on all the work that you're working on with AI now in your area? Oh, you have.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. In Israel, we are a relatively small country, and we have a small budget while we compete in all the world. So first of all, we integrated all the ministry, all the entity which work for AI, the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, the Ministry of Defense, this Innovation Authority of the Academy, the Ministry of Education, and of course the Ministry of Treasury. We support with additional money, and we initiated a national program to synchronize all the efforts which all this ministry and entity, in order to, first of all, to create a handshake between the entities, so each entity know what other one do, and secondly, to integrate the budget in order to build centers which we'll use for all this entity. As for the AI in the public sector, we understand that in Israel, since we are a small country, we have a unique situation, since the public sector is relatively is a good and a big client for the AI company. So each AI company want to work with government. And the government is the better site for the company in order to go in the next phase globally. So after success story with the government, the company have a lot of potential to sell the product and export it. And for the Israeli companies, this is the main objective, because the Israeli startup nation, we are looking all the time globally. So this is the main idea.
Thank you so much. So let me put you into another secret. We love talking about AI. We love talking about AI use cases. You cannot really talk about one single AI use case without you understand the process. You need to look at processes first. You need to analyze your processes to understand where the bottleneck is. And another thing is we can't not just work in silos anymore. I came from the private sector. I'm now also in the government sector. And that's why I gave you the permanent example, because in the private sector, we have so many great intention on how we are going to go into renewable. But the thing is that if the government is not supporting that, even though there's regulations and even though there's investment, but because that permitting process I talked about is stopped, everything is delayed. Everything is delayed. I live in LA and was impacted, only evacuated for 1 day, but many people was evacuated, lost their houses at the wildfire. In less than 1 week, 16,000 applications were sent to FEMA. They need help now. How do you do that? You use superpower like AI to go in and scan application and make sure that people get what they need. The power of AI, and that's why I'm going to introduce you to Jana, is that it can help you to innovate. It can help you to help people in the best possible way in crisis situation. AI here is to make a better world for us, which is what AI for good is making sure that we do. So Jana, you represent the #1 process mining company in the world. It's out of Munich. It's called Celonis. And you always say process first, and then together with AI. Fill them up about what this is, because I know they all need to go home and rethink their processes when you have been talking.
Thank you, Anne, for having me, and thank you for being able to add the private sector perspective to this, as we're collaborating very closely also with government institutions and NGOs. So at Celonis, we believe that by making processes work, we make work easier for people, for institutions, and we also help the planet thrive. And we do that by basically looking at the underlying IT systems that every institution has, whether it is a company, whether it is an NGO actually, or a government institution. And we take out the digital footprints that happen in those systems, all the work that we do every day, which can, for example, be running applications and revisiting them. And we analyze those digital footprints and visualize the process from it. And based on that, we basically see where there is inefficiencies or where there is also opportunity to improve that. And we give intelligent recommendations then to the users of the platform that can then improve the processes. Now, that is the very basic explanation of it. And I think where it's critical is that everyone out here is touched by those processes, whether it is using the government, whether it is working with companies, all of you have and interact with processes every day. And so now what we're seeing when it comes to using AI, AI is only as good as the data and input that it gets. And so we know that already from the responsibility aspect, that is super crucial. But if you imagine now, if you put all of that process data, all of the interactions that you have into AI as well, you give it a lot more context, and then you can use it to turn that complexity into opportunity. So that is something that we're doing. And I want to add up on the points that we've heard also about the efficiencies, but also about the trust and collaboration aspect, because one of the things that we experience as a company is that, especially when working with government institutions or NGOs, is that collaboration is even more important than in the private sector. So we have, for example, a project right now ongoing with the state of Texas, and then also Evident Change, an NGO, and a university. So it's oftentimes exactly those stakeholders coming together, and then the private sector as well providing the technology. And what we're doing there is we're looking at the juvenile justice system and the mental health of those juveniles that are in prison. And we're analyzing exactly that data from the systems that the state of Texas has, including the NGO that is helping to improve that mental health. And we're using process intelligence to basically look through what are they doing in the system? Where are people getting lost? Where are things happening that affect the people for real? And then how can we use AI to improve it and make it better for the affected people? And that's a beautiful example for a collaboration where it's not just about time or cost and efficiency, but also has a direct social impact. And so that's why I'm super excited of using process intelligence and AI for those use cases.
Thank you so much, Jana. So the bottom line is, to work with AI in government, you need to understand your process. It sounds really boring what I'm going to say to you, but where you will find some of the biggest findings is some of the most traditional processes: grant allocation, permitting, access to information, case workers, all the back office shit that can be optimized, innovated with AI. And I tell you one thing, the citizens that the government are serving, they will have some great chatbots, they'll have some great interfaces to how they can be served every single day in a much more transparent way. We are seeing, I'm Danish, Denmark is #1 in the world on digitalization within government. And the company that I advise, called Cbrain, the entire Danish government, minus a few ministries, are using this software. And it's right now being scaled around the world, and we are sharing it with ITU. Because we do not live in a time anymore where we need to sit and keep it for ourselves. And this is what AI for Good is such a great initiative with the GovStack, where I, in my capacity, are right now building with some other great people, literally a process catalog for processes in government and for citizens to work much smarter. There's one thing you need to think about, is that it's not all government out there in the world who are 100% digitalized today. Many have many processes that is not digitalized. So what do? Do you digitalize and then do AI afterwards, or do you do it at the same time? You know what you do? You first map, I know it's very boring, but this is what you do if you really do AI well. You map out that as business process. Yes, that's what I said. You map out this as business process. You're figuring out all the bottlenecks. You're figuring out where the improvement needs to be. You both innovate, efficiency, and most of all, think about the persona that you are serving every single day. In this case, is the citizen. I want you to use the last couple of 5 minutes to tell the audience about how can I get involved. What are you working on right now? I know what I'm working on. I'm building public AI services with you guys and making them available for all member states. So what are you working on right now? What are you working on? What are you working on? What are you working on that can help others to create a better world?
Okay, thank you for that. One of our catchphrases is we're more than a summit, and we're known for the summit in Geneva, but we have collaborations going on all year. We develop AI standards. We have 220 AI standards developed on cybersecurity and optimizing telecommunication networks and multimedia and environmental efficiency for data centers, for example. And one thing we did is we had an AI Governance Day last year, and the theme was moving from principles to implementation. And the idea was we had all the major governance processes there from the US, UK, China, Japan, Korea, but also bringing ministers from about 80 developing countries to the table with the UN and NGOs. And the idea was how do we move from principles to implementation? And what we found is there's more in common than there is that separates us. And if there was two pain points that emerged from that day, one was how do we handle misinformation and deepfakes, and one was how do we bridge the AI skills gap. So we developed a standards initiative to basically build collaboration around deepfake detection techniques and AI watermarking to handle the deepfake misinformation part. So that's been launched. And yesterday we launched the AI Skills Coalition with 30 partners, including Microsoft, AWS, Deloitte, and what have you, to really bridge that skills gap, especially focusing on developing countries. And I just want to finish for thanking you for your work on GovStack. It's super important to use all of this knowledge and know-how and build collaboration to enable governments to transform digitally, but to offer digital public services in a way that are open, interoperable, and again, focusing on developing countries. And this morning, our Secretary General, Doreen Bogdan-Martin, launched the Open Wallet Forum with the Linux Foundation, where we're going to add to that toolkit with digital wallets that could be used around the world. And I think last but not least, I invite you all to Geneva, 8th to the 11th. It's summertime, it's free, it's open, we need your inputs, it's open for all, so you're all invited. Thank you.
You also have a community so they can sign up to community already, right? Yeah.
Exactly. It's online, the neural network, 40,000 members. Please join them. That's a great place to get started.
Okay, two quick adds to my previous remarks and then the thing that I'm working on. One is, I was thinking of the federal government when I made my remarks, big government earlier, but local government, small government, may actually benefit more from AI because they are understaffed, they lack the expertise, and AI can help tremendously there. The other thing, and this will lead into my third, is let's call the utility system, the electricity system, quasi-governmental, and I know from my direct work that it's a dumb system. There are not smart technologies, it's data-starved for operating that system efficiently. And that system is going to be more important, I think, to the AI industry than you think, based on what I've heard over the last few days. The power demands are rising exponentially, and how that power is met in a low emissions nature is really important. Love to talk to you all about that.
Okay, thank you. I really agree with you regarding small government. We are also in the municipal level. I just want to add one thing. For example, in Israel, we are now implementing AI into the healthcare industry. Together with the Ministry of Health, there is 1,500 startups company in Israel, which are working in the health tech industry. So we are working together with the government in order to adjust the solution to the needs and remove all the regulation and all the barriers, regulation barriers from the government perspective, in order to promote this company and improve the service to the patient and, of course, grow up a big company in Israel.
Thank you so much. We are running a fast program here. Thank you so much to panelists. Thank you so much to everybody.